Close your eyes for a second and just breathe. Because what I'm about to say, it matters. My love, I can feel it, the hesitation in your heart, the quiet storm behind your silence. You're standing at a moment that looks small, almost harmless. But deep down, you already know it isn't. Some choices don't just pass through time, they stay, they echo, they change things in ways we can't take back. And I'm not here to control you, I'm here because I care. Because loving you means I don't stay silent when I see you walking towards something that could hurt you, hurt us. So before you take that step, just listen to me. Not with your mind, but with your heart. My love, come closer, just for a moment. Don't rush past this feeling. I know you're thinking fast right now, maybe too fast. Your heart is louder than your thoughts, and everything inside you is pushing you to act, to decide, to move forward. Like this moment doesn't carry weight, but it does. It carries more than you can see right now. I can feel the distance in you, even when you're standing right here. It's not physical, it's deeper than that. It's the way your eyes avoid mine when the truth gets too close. It's the silence between your words. It's the way you're convincing yourself that this choice is small, temporary, harmless. But it's not. And I think somewhere inside you, you already know that. You don't have to say it. I can see it in the way your hands hesitate, in the way your voice almost cracks when you try to sound certain. You're trying to make something feel right that isn't. You're trying to quiet that voice inside you that keeps whispering, "This isn't you, this isn't what you really want." But you keep pushing it down because the moment feels strong, because the temptation feels real, because part of you just wants to escape whatever you're feeling right now. And I understand that more than you think. Sometimes the weight of emotions becomes too much. Sometimes the confusion, the pain, the doubt, it builds up until making a quick decision feels like relief, like freedom, like a way out. But not every door leads to freedom. Some doors, once opened, don't close the same way again. You're standing right in front of one of those doors, and I'm not here to stop you. I'm not here to control your choices or take away your freedom. Loving you was never about that. It was always about standing beside you, even in moments like this, especially in moments like this. But loving you also means I won't pretend everything is okay when I can see where this is leading. Because I've seen what happens when people ignore that quiet voice inside them. At first, it feels like nothing changed. The world keeps moving. The sky looks the same. You wake up the next day and everything seems normal. You tell yourself, it's fine, it didn't matter that much. But then, slowly, things begin to shift. Not around you, but within you. There's a heaviness that settles in your chest. A kind of silence that feels different than peace. It's not calm, it's something else. It's the kind of quiet that comes when you realize you crossed a line you can't uncross. And that's the part people don't talk about enough. Mistakes aren't always loud. They don't always come with chaos or immediate consequences. Sometimes they arrive softly, almost gently, and by the time you realize what they've taken from you, it's already gone. Something changes in the way you see yourself. The reflection you once trusted starts to feel unfamiliar. You begin to question your own heart, your own values, your own truth, and that confusion, it lingers. I don't want that for you, not because I'm afraid of losing something for myself, but because I know who you are when you are not caught in moments like this. I've seen your honesty, your kindness, your depth. I've seen the way you care, the way you think, the way your heart holds on to things that truly matter. And this choice you're about to make, it doesn't align with that version of you. Maybe right now it feels justified. Maybe you found reasons, explanations, excuses that make it easier to step forward. That's what the mind does. When the heart is conflicted, it builds stories to protect the decision. It makes wrong things feel right just enough to move forward. But truth doesn't disappear just because we soften it. It stays, it waits, and eventually it returns. You might think you can handle it, that you are strong enough to carry whatever comes after. And maybe you are strong. I know you are. But strength isn't about how much weight you can carry after a mistake. It's about recognizing when not to carry it at all. There's a difference between surviving something and never having to go through it in the first place. Right now, you still have that choice. That's what makes this moment so important. Not because it's dramatic or intense on the surface, but because it's quiet and easy to overlook. It's the kind of moment people walk through without thinking and then spend years trying to understand why things feel different afterward. I'm asking you to pause, not forever, just long enough to truly see what's in front of you. Not just the immediate feeling, not just the short-term relief or satisfaction, but the full picture, the after, the echo, the part that comes later when everything slows down and the reality settles in. Because it will settle in, and when it does, I don't want you to feel that ache of wishing you had taken just one more second to think, one more second to listen to yourself, one more second to choose differently. You don't need to prove anything right now. Not to me, not to anyone else, not even to yourself. You don't need to rush into a decision just because the moment feels urgent. Some of the most important choices in life are the ones that require stillness, not movement. Just because something feels intense doesn't mean it's right. Intensity can be misleading. It can make temporary emotions feel permanent. It can turn impulses into actions before we fully understand them. And by the time clarity arrives, the decision has already been made. I know you don't want to hurt anyone. That's not who you are. Even now, I can see the conflict in you, the hesitation, the part of you that's not fully convinced. That part matters. That part is real. Don't silence it. That voice inside you isn't weakness, it's awareness. It's the part of you that sees beyond the moment. It's the part that understands consequences before they happen. It's the part that's trying to protect you from something you might not fully understand yet. And I'm standing here, not as someone above you, not as someone judging you, but as someone who cares deeply about what happens next. Because once a decision is made, time doesn't rewind. You don't get to go back to this exact moment with the same innocence, the same clarity, the same opportunity to choose differently. Life moves forward, always forward, carrying the weight of what we've done along with it. And sometimes that weight becomes part of us in ways we never expected. It changes how we love, it changes how we trust, it changes how we see ourselves and others, not always dramatically, but enough to notice when we're alone with our thoughts. That's why this matters. Not because I'm trying to create fear, but because I'm trying to show you reality. The kind that doesn't shout but stays. You deserve a life where you don't have to look back at moments like this with regret. You deserve peace, the kind that comes from knowing you stayed true to yourself, even when it was hard, even when it would have been easier to just follow the feeling and move on. And I know it's hard. I know the pull you're feeling isn't small. I know there's something inside you pushing you toward this decision, something that feels convincing enough to almost silence everything else. But almost is important because it means there's still doubt. And doubt is worth listening to. Not all doubt is fear. Sometimes it's wisdom. Sometimes it's clarity trying to break through the noise. Sometimes it's the part of you that sees what the rest of you is trying to ignore. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to push it away. Just sit with it. Feel it fully. Let it speak. Because if you move too quickly, you might never hear what it was trying to tell you. And I don't want you to reach a point where you understand this moment only after it's gone. I don't want you to look back and think, I knew, I felt it, but I didn't listen. You still have time, right here, right now. Before anything is done, before anything becomes permanent, you still have the space to choose differently. And whatever you decide, it will stay with you. Not just in memory, but in feeling. That's how moments like this work. They don't just pass, they imprint. And I believe in you enough to know that you can choose something that doesn't leave a mark you wish you could erase. Because you are more than this moment. You are more than this impulse. You are more than a decision made in a rush of emotion. And deep down, you know exactly what the right choice feels like. My love, if only you could see how far one decision can reach. Right now, what stands before you may look like just a moment. One choice, one action, one step. It may seem small enough to hold in your hand, simple enough to justify, quiet enough to hide from the rest of your life. But some choices do not remain in the moment they are made. Some choices keep living long after the moment has passed. That is the danger of mistakes that cannot be undone. They do not always arrive with warning signs. They do not always announce themselves with pain or disaster. Sometimes they come dressed as comfort. Sometimes they feel like relief. Sometimes they even feel like freedom. That is what makes them so powerful. They can look beautiful while carrying destruction within them. And I know how easy it is to believe that one decision will disappear into the past. We tell ourselves, it is only this once. We whisper, no one will know. We promise ourselves, I can fix it later. But life does not always give us the chance to fix what has been broken. There are moments when one action becomes a turning point, when one sentence spoken in anger, one betrayal made in weakness, one choice made in confusion creates consequences that ripple through everything that follows, not because life is cruel, but because some things are fragile. Trust is fragile, peace is fragile, the way we see ourselves is fragile. And once those things are broken, they may heal, but they never return in exactly the same way. That is what people often misunderstand about consequences. They imagine consequences as punishment, as if life strikes back against us for doing wrong, but consequences are not revenge. They are simply the natural shadow cast by our actions. Every decision creates something, either peace or pain, healing or hurt, truth or regret. And once that shadow is created, it cannot be called back. You may be able to apologize, you may be forgiven, you may rebuild what was damaged, but even then, something remains. A memory remains, a scar remains, a knowledge remains, the knowledge that something precious was broken. And the hardest part is that sometimes the greatest consequence is invisible to everyone but you. You may smile on the outside. You may move on. You may convince the world that everything is fine. But inside, you carry the memory of the choice. And memory has weight. It shows up in quiet moments, in the silence before sleep, in the unexpected ache that rises when your mind drifts back to the place where everything changed. It reminds you that there was a moment when another path was possible, a moment when you could have chosen differently. That is the kind of consequence that never fully fades. People think regret is loud, but often regret is silent. It sits in the background of your life. It whispers instead of shouts. It follows instead of attacks. And over time, it changes the way you carry yourself. It changes the way you trust your instincts because you remember the time you ignored them. It changes the way you look at your own reflection because you remember the version of yourself that chose against your own truth. It changes the way you love because you know how easily love can be wounded. This is why consequences matter. Not because you should live in fear of making mistakes, but because every meaningful thing in life is shaped by the decisions we make when no one else sees. The future is not built in giant dramatic moments. It is built in the quiet decisions, the private choices, the unseen turning points, and one of those turning points is in front of you now. The decision you make in this moment may become part of your future in ways you cannot yet imagine. Because consequences do not always arrive immediately. Sometimes they wait. At first, you may feel nothing at all. In fact, you may feel relief. You may think the choice solved the problem. You may believe you escaped the pain you feared. But time reveals what emotion hides. What feels like relief today may become sorrow tomorrow. What feels like freedom today may become regret tomorrow. What feels like power today may become loss tomorrow. And when that realization comes, there is no way to return to the innocence you had before the choice was made. That innocence is part of what is at stake. There is a certain peace in living without regret, in knowing that even when life was difficult, you remained true to what mattered. That peace is one of the most valuable things a person can have, and once it is lost, it is not easily restored. You can move forward after a mistake, you can heal, you can grow, but you can never erase. That is what makes consequences so heavy, not that they destroy life, but that they become part of life. They become part of your story, and every time you remember, you revisit the truth that there was a choice, and the choice became reality. I wish I could protect you from that kind of pain. I wish I could stand between you and every consequence that would wound your spirit. But I cannot live your choices for you. No one can. All I can do is remind you that this moment matters more than it seems. Because consequences rarely look frightening in the beginning. They often begin with a single step that feels harmless. One compromise, one dishonest word, one selfish decision, one impulsive action, and then slowly, what was once small becomes something larger. One compromise makes the next compromise easier. One dishonest word weakens the value of truth. One selfish decision teaches the heart to ignore what is sacred. One impulsive action opens the door to deeper regret. That is how consequences grow. Not always in sudden collapse, but in quiet accumulation. A little loss of trust here, a little loss of peace there, a little loss of self-respect somewhere deeper, until one day you realize the cost was far greater than the benefit ever was. That realization can break a person's heart, not because the world condemns them, but because they see clearly what they traded away. They traded lasting peace for temporary satisfaction. They traded honesty for convenience. They traded what mattered for what was momentary. And once that truth becomes clear, no excuse feels strong enough. That is the loneliness of regret. It strips away the stories we told ourselves. The justifications no longer comfort us. The reasons no longer protect us. Only the truth remains. And truth can be painful when it arrives too late. That is why I am speaking now before the truth becomes pain. Because right now, you still have something priceless. Choice. Choice is the power to protect your future before it is wounded. Choice is the power to guard your peace before it is broken. Choice is the power to prevent regret before it is born. That power is in your hands right now. But once the decision is made, that power changes. After the choice, all you can do is respond to consequences. Before the choice, you can shape them. That is why this moment is sacred. Because in this moment, the future is still unwritten. The regret has not yet happened. The pain has not yet happened. The loss has not yet happened. And because it has not happened, it can still be prevented. That is the gift of awareness. To recognize the weight of a choice before its consequences arrive. Not everyone pauses long enough to see that. Many people rush ahead, driven by emotion, pride, fear, desire, or anger. They convince themselves the moment is all that matters. But the moment is never all that matters. The future matters, the heart matters, the person you will become matters, and every decision shapes that person. You are becoming someone through every choice you make. Every honest choice strengthens honesty. Every loving choice strengthens love. Every wise choice strengthens wisdom. And every reckless choice strengthens regret. That is why one decision can echo for years. Because it does not only affect what happens around you, it affects what grows within you. And what grows within you becomes your character, your peace, your future. That is the real consequence. Not simply what happens after the choice, but what the choice creates inside you. If you betray what you know is right, something inside you changes. If you ignore your conscience, something inside you hardens. If you abandon your truth, something inside you fractures. And those inner consequences are often harder to heal than outward ones. Because the world may forget what happened, but your spirit remembers, your heart remembers, your conscience remembers, and carrying that memory changes the way you walk through life. This is why some mistakes feel impossible to undo. Not because forgiveness is impossible, not because healing is impossible, but because the moment becomes permanent in your story. It becomes part of who you had to become afterward. And while pain can teach, not all pain is necessary. Some pain can be avoided by choosing wisely now. That is what love wants for you. Love does not want you burdened by preventable regret. Love does not want your heart carrying wounds that never needed to happen. Love does not want you looking back with sorrow over what could have been avoided. Love wants peace for you, real peace. The kind of peace that comes when your future self looks back and feels gratitude instead of regret. Gratitude that you paused, gratitude that you listened, gratitude that you chose with wisdom instead of impulse. Because one wise decision today can protect years of peace tomorrow, and one reckless decision today can create years of pain tomorrow. That is the truth about consequences. They last longer than emotions. The feeling pushing you right now will fade. The urgency will fade. The temptation will fade. But the result of your decision may remain. So when you choose, do not choose based on what feels strongest right now. Choose based on what you can live with later. Choose what allows your heart to rest. Choose what protects what matters. Choose what your future self will thank you for. Because tomorrow the emotion will be gone, but the consequence may still be there. And when tomorrow comes, I want you to have peace. I want you to wake up with your heart intact. I want you to look in the mirror without shame. I want you to remember this moment not as the place where regret began, but as the place where wisdom won. Because that is possible. The mistake has not yet been made. The consequence has not yet been written. The future has not yet been decided. You still have the power to choose peace over regret, and that power, right now, is everything.